to discover how our children learn and then finding ways that we can assist them with that. So before we get started, I just want to know a little bit about you. Are you from our area? We're out of Greenwood. Where are you from?
Me, April? Am I the only one here?
Yes, unfortunately. But I will tell you, we are recording this for further play. So if you know someone who might benefit from this, please feel free to share the link. And also, I'm going to be giving a lot of information. So don't feel overwhelmed, because you can go back and watch it again. And we also have a really nice 5-page handout that will cover some of the information I'm talking about and a little bit extra.
Wonderful.
All right.
Thank you.
Are you homeschooling?
I am. So I appreciate also, I'll be mindful that I'm being recorded in terms of some of the detail, because I tend to tell stories.
Okay.
Long answers. So I am preschooling a 4-year-old.
Okay.
He turns 5 next month. So
Okay.
he's really would be kindergarten, except for having just missed a cutoff. And his little brother is at home with us too, who is will be 3.
Okay.
Let's call them R. R is my 4-year-old, 5-year-old, and
Okay.
E is my 2-year-old.
Okay.
So I'm homeschooling, but R is. I'm definitely interested in finding the best learning style, because he's always been a very resistant child, and we've had a history of some behavioral therapy and trying to get over the hump of some of his resistance measures.
Mm-hmm.
He's not diagnosed on the spectrum, but we did benefit from parent-child interaction therapy,
Mm-hmm.
and so definitely as we start into like a whole year of me being the stand-in for a teacher, I want to do I want to learn from this for sure,
Okay.
because there is so much accommodation that already happens, but then I don't want to fold completely either. I want to meet some objectives of being sure that he's learning and growing, and
very good.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
also addressing
I think that, yeah, I think that towards the end, I'm going to be talking about a profile that I think it might connect a little bit to ours. So I hope so. So good. I'm happy to know that little bit of background, and also the age, because that's going to help how I address some of these things. And I do think we have one other person that's getting ready to join us.
Mm-hmm.
So,
wonderful.
So you won't feel so alone.
Yes, hopefully Melissa can connect.
Yes. So let's see. And this obviously will be your first year of homeschooling?
Yes, well, I've had them home. My husband, I won't go into that, but I've had them home with me pretty much for going on 2 years. Really, with the pandemic, it's not changed a whole lot, because I work from home in the afternoons. Once my husband is able to take on the childcare primary duties. So I've had them home, but we haven't really formalized. Like now I've got a classroom environment to try to get focused and frame of mind, but I also recognize their ages, like we need to play and everything, but
sure, it's good.
But I'm trying to get a more structured, because we have very open mornings. I've been home. I'm home with them during the day. We have a very loose structure. And now I do want to be a little more formalized. But it's nice that I don't fall into a compulsory age where I have to answer to district or state.
Right. Are you planning, I guess depending on how it goes, are you planning on going, past the pandemic, or are you?
Yes, potentially.
Excuse me?
Yes, potentially.
Okay.
Because of the challenges we have with my husband has a chronic illness, and really one of my biggest stressors was when we thought we'd have a full day preschool this year was having our ready for the bus at 8:30 in the morning, because we aren't a family that is ready for the bus at 8:30 in the morning. And so because the chronic illness is a long-term thing, if this works out well, I can see me doing this for another couple of years through ours first grade, until the point where both of my children are able to, we can reconsider a full day out of the home process. But since I'll have my littlest one with me for at least 2 more years, I could, if I can make this work well, I can see being open to it, because with my job flexibility, this might be what fits our family really on the
Wonderful.
long term.
That's wonderful. And I'll tell you what, and I might repeat this later in the presentation, but one of the benefits of you starting out in the beginning of his education is that you're going to know his learning style, you're going to know what works, and when you turn him over to the formal education, you're going to have all those tools ready to say, look, this is what works. You know what I mean? Instead of, yeah, and plus, especially, well, I'll talk about this later, but I think good. I think you're going to hopefully get some good information out of what we're talking about today. And I'm not an expert, but I have done a lot of research. And so if there's something that I don't touch upon and you're interested in, or something you want to know further, I will be leaving at the very end our phone number and email and that sort of thing. Please don't hesitate in getting in contact with me. I love working with teachers in the public domain, because they will let me know what their what their themes are for the month or something, and I just love digging in and pulling out all kinds of resources. So keep us in mind.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Will do.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started. I hope that Melissa can join in, but I have a lot of information I would like to get through, and so let's go ahead and get started.
Okay.
The reason why it's so important to learn how a child learns, or to know how a child learns, is because, number one, they gain self-confidence, because there's nothing worse than feeling that you're dumb, you're stupid, you can't learn anything. It's really bad. Whereas it's not that they don't have the intelligence, it's just that the teacher hasn't figured out what they need to learn. Once that is known, then you can adapt your lesson plans to fit those specific strengths. Again, self-confidence will build. And as a result of that, as a child grows older, especially, and is faced with more vigorous lessons and testing and things like that, they will know how to study better. And most importantly, it minimizes the frustration level that everyone, is going to feel when things aren't working. And the goal, regardless of whether they go to public school or are homeschooled, the final result is that we want to produce lifelong learners and people who are curious and excited and just, don't stop learning ever. So the first thing that I want to do is to run through a couple of scenarios or questions. Now, where R is so young, some of these you won't know exactly how he would react, but just sort of, his personality, so just sort of project how you think he may react. And also, I would like it if you would answer these questions for yourself as well, because I think it's important for the teacher to also know what their learning style is, so that they can understand how they translate information. And once they know that, they can figure out how they can maneuver it and change it up to fit the student's style. So if you have anything handy to write down, I would like for you to have 2 columns or 2 sheets of paper, one with your initial and one with R. And I'm going to go through some multiple choice. And so, as I said, answer for yourself and for your son as well. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. If I have to learn how to do something, I learn best when I watch someone show me how, hear someone tell me how, have things I can hold in my hands, read the directions out loud to myself, get my best friend to come over and help. I get easily frustrated and blame the directions for being too hard, or I go off to myself, read the directions, and take my time thinking about things before I begin. And let me know when you're ready for the next one.
Okay.
Okay, and this is something, especially for yourself, don't think too much about it, just whatever your first gut instinct is. All right.
It's harder for me to identify for my son, but yeah, I never know which way to go with him. So
Right. Well, yeah, and we'll hope that when we total everything up. Now, keep in mind that everyone has more than one learning style. And
okay.
so what we're looking for is the primary one. All right, here we
Okay.
go. When I read, I often find that I visualize what I'm reading in my mind's eye, read out loud and hear the words in my head. I fidget and try to feel the content. Read out loud using voices and accents that fit the characters. I want to find a book club reading the same title. Correctly guess the ending before I'm halfway through. Or have a favorite reading spot that is quiet. So how would you imagine are you set?
Mm-hmm.
All right, here we go.
Yeah.
When asked to give directions, I see the actual place in my mind as I say them, or I prefer to draw the directions. I have no problem giving them verbally. I have to point or move my body as I give them. Listen to myself repeat them more than once to make sure they are accurate. Offer to take them there myself if it isn't too far. Suggest they ask someone else as I have a learning disability or I'm directionally challenged, which I am. And because I'm so shy, I just shake my head no and leave.
Okay.
If I'm unsure how to spell a word, I write it in order to see how it looks. Spell it out loud to see if the phonics seem right. Write it to see if it feels right. Listen to myself spell it out loud instead of writing. Ask someone else how to spell it. Think about the root word or language origin for clues, or look it up in the dictionary.
Okay. I'm good.
When I write, I am concerned how neat and well spaced the letters and words appear. Often say letters and words to myself. Push hard on my pencil and can feel the words flow out as I write them. Read it back to myself out loud to make sure it makes sense. Read it out loud to family or friends to get their feedback. Look for unique approaches to the topic that have not been explored before, or try to apply the topic to my life and experiences.
Okay.
To remember a list of items, it is easier if I write them down, if I listen to a recording of someone reading the list a few times, move around and move my fingers to name each of them, say them to myself a few times, brainstorm with someone to discover how to make word associations that will aid my memory. Just carry out the task as remembering things is very easy for me, or spend some time alone reviewing the list.
All right.
I prefer teachers who use the board or overhead projector while they lecture, talk with a lot of expression, use hands-on activities, allow me to ask a lot of questions during class, give a lot of group assignments, gives me special assignments when I finish tasks before the rest of the class, understands that I don't feel comfortable giving class presentations or giving demonstrations in front of the other students.
Okay. All right, I'm good.
I have a hard time concentrating when there is a lot of clutter or movement in the room. There is a lot of noise in the room. I have to sit still for any length of time. Assignments are only given in written form, such as being written on the board. I am alone in a quiet room. I have a deadline, or I am in a crowded room with a lot of noise and distractions.
I know mine. Let me just take one more look.
Not a problem.
Okay.
When solving a problem, I write or draw diagrams to see it, like to hear it read out loud, use my body or move objects to help me think, talk myself through it, like to work with other people, am a perfectionist when it challenges me, take my time and think about various solutions before arriving at a solution.
Okay.
When given written instructions on how to build something, I look at the diagrams for each step, have someone read the steps to me while I work, pick up all the pieces and lay them out on the floor, read them out loud and talk to myself as I put the parts together, get a friend or parent to help, try to put the parts together first and read directions later, or go off and put the thing together alone.
All right. Got it.
To keep occupied while waiting, I look around and watch people around me or thumb through a magazine, listen to the conversations of others, walk around manipulating things with my hands or shake my feet while I sit, talk to someone on my cell phone, text friends or check my Facebook page, read travel magazines, or read the book I keep in my purse for such situations.
All right.
When you study for a test, would you rather read notes, read headings in a book, and look at diagrams? Listen to recordings of notes or classroom lectures? Write things out on index cards, make models or diagrams? Read notes and important information out loud? Participate in a study group? Skim through the information before the test? Or be left alone with plenty of space to spread out?
Guesswork here, but okay. I'm not sure for my little what he might do, but
Some of these, yeah,
based
some
on,
of
yeah,
these,
based
yeah. We're going to talk about characteristics later on, and
on
that might
yeah,
help you. That might be more
personality.
useful, yeah.
Yeah, give me the personality profile here for some of these.
Okay, which of these things do you do while listening to music? Daydream, turn up the volume, move with the music and tap your feet, etc. Sing along, talk about the music with friends, invent harmonies to go along with the song, or listen closely to the lyrics and relate them to personal experiences.
Okay.
When you read for fun, do you prefer a travel book with lots of pictures, an audio book, to squeeze a stress ball or walk around while reading, read out loud? Have a book that is a box office hit that my friends and I can discuss, a book where you answer questions and solve problems, or a biography of someone I admire.
All right.
To learn how a computer works, would you rather watch a movie about it, listen to someone explain it, take the computer apart and try to figure it out for yourself, read the instructions out loud, work with a group in a computer lab, read professional journals and magazine articles, have plenty of videos and online resources that I can mull over in my room?
Okay.
You have just entered a science museum. What will you do first? Look around and find a map showing where things are located. Take a tour with the museum guide and ask about the exhibits. Walk around looking for exhibits that look interesting. Get a guide, and as you read the guide, you hear every word in your mind. Wander around with a group of friends and discuss what you see. Seek out exhibits that you feel passionate about and ask the museum guide in-depth questions. Get a map and wander around alone, thinking deeply about the importance of each exhibit.
All right.
What kind of restaurant would you rather not go to? One with lights too bright, one with music too loud, one with uncomfortable chairs, one where the music is so loud I can't have a conversation, one where the other diners think our conversation is too loud or animated, one with a theme that is too juvenile, or one that is crowded and loud.
All right.
Would you rather go to an art class, music class, exercise class, debate club, drama club, chess club, or the library?
Okay.
What are you most likely to do when you're happy? Grin, listen to my favorite music, jump for joy and clap, shout with joy, get together with a group of friends, try to figure out why certain things make people happy, or describe my feelings in my journal.
Okay.
If you were at a party, what would you be most likely to remember the next day? The faces of the people, but not the names but not the faces, the things you did while you were there, the things you said while you were there, the new friends that you made that night, the people who had advanced information about your interests or how uncomfortable you were.
Okay.
When you see the word DOG, what do you do first? Think of a picture of a particular dog, hear the word dog in your head, sense the feeling of being with the dog, such as petting it. Say the word dog to yourself silently. Think about dog parks. Think about various breeds of dogs, or think about what good companions dogs are.
Okay.
When you tell a story, would you rather illustrate or use colorful language, rehearse it into a tape recorder, act it out, give an oral rendition, get people to help act out the important parts, include technical details, or write it for others to read?
Okay.
What are you most likely to do when you are angry? Scowl, give the silent treatment, stomp off and slam doors, shout, talk to my friends and seek their sympathy, demand justice, or keep my feelings to myself?
Okay.
Okay, now this is a little bit different. So what I want you to do is write down the number that that on the scale that works for both of you. Not true, 0, and you can see how the numbers are assigned. Okay.
Okay.
Reasons well is a good thinker.
Okay.
Learns rapidly,
Mm-hmm.
has extensive vocabulary,
Mm-hmm.
has excellent memory,
Mm-hmm.
long attention span,
Mm-hmm.
feelings easily hurt,
Or matches. Uh-huh.
perfectionist,
Mm-hmm.
shows compassion,
Mm-hmm.
intense,
Mm-hmm.
morally sensitive,
Mm-hmm.
has a strong curiosity,
Mm-hmm.
perseverant, persists with something when it engages their interest,
Mm-hmm.
has a high degree of energy,
Okay.
prefers older companions.
Okay.
Has a wide range of interests,
Okay.
great sense of humor,
Mm-hmm.
early reader, avid reader,
Mm-hmm.
concerned with justice and fairness,
Mm-hmm.
mature judgment for their age at times,
Mm-hmm.
keen observer.
What was that? A keen observer?
Uh-huh.
Oh,
Mhm.
yeah. He's off the charts.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Vivid imagination,
Mm-hmm.
highly creative,
Mm-hmm.
questions authority,
Mm-hmm.
shows ability with numbers,
Mm-hmm.
good at jigsaw puzzles,
Mm-hmm.
relates facts learned from past to new knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
shows unusual reasoning power,
Mm-hmm.
and an early interest in clocks, calendars, and puzzles.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now add up your scores. What you want to do is determine how many of the letters you have, and then also add up the points, the number points.
Okay, for R, I have his tallied. Would I take the A through G and add those
No,
as a,
the A through G, I'm
okay,
interested to know what are the top two letters.
okay, we have F and A for him.
F and A. Okay.
Mm,
How high was the number?
I have 6 Fs and 5 As.
Okay, 6 Fs and 5 As. And then when you added up those numbers, what did you come up with?
68.
Okay. I wish I knew.
A lot of 3.
A lot of what? A lot of threes?
3s.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And mine's almost a perfect match on that one. Do you want my
Yeah, what's yours?
letter
Yeah.
school?
Yeah.
Let me just run this one real quick. 1, 2. C, D, one, two. Okay, I have 8 G's and 7 F's.
E's and 7 F's. Okay. And okay. Very good. All right. Well, let's go ahead and see what these scores are telling us. All right. If you have mostly A's, chances are you're dealing with a visual learner, and they learn by seeing things. Now, all these different learning styles include the activation of different parts of the brain. So if you're a visual learner, you'd like to see what you're learning. You'd like a quiet surrounding without a lot of visual distractions. You do best when you're shown what to do, can have an interest in machines and things like that that have different parts that fit together. They excel at visual activities like art. They enjoy books with illustrations, charts, and diagrams. And often when they're trying to remember something, they'll close their eyes so they can visualize it. So those are the characteristics. These are tips for working with visual learners. For activities to stimulate, and again, you're going to get all of this in a handout, and you can also watch this, as many times as you want. So, activities that will stimulate learning would be board games and memory games and picture books. And the thing that they're saying, even when you have older visual learners, it's really good to include picture books because especially these days, they have such wonderful photography in those that it sparks their memory. Use documentaries instead of textbooks. Use concept maps like brain charts and things like that, things that will visually take topics and break them down into headings and subheadings. It's really good if they can make a model of whatever they are working with or be able to manipulate puzzles. And when you're teaching them, it's a really good idea to use a visual cue when, let's say you're giving a, homeschool lecture sort of thing. When you're getting to the part of the information that is going to be important that you're going to test them on, or you're going to build a future concept on, you give a visual cue, and that will be something that you'll talk with R, and you can say, now whenever I hold my hand up like this, pay attention, because the next thing that I say is going to be something that you are going to want to remember. And after you've agreed that, you don't have to stop and say that each time, but that'll be a cue. So whenever you're talking, you put your hand up, whatever it is you decide to do, they're going to, visually be notified that whatever's coming out of your mouth next is going to be important. So study aids, they are very keen on using color coding. So especially when you get to the part when you are even at his age, you know, you're going to start doing some simple charting and things like that. So come up with a color code that will stand for different concepts or different things that he's going to be learning all throughout. And then once you decide on what color stands for what, you don't change it. That is always going to be consistent, because when he is studying for a test or something, remember, he's going to close those eyes and he's going to visualize and he's going to see those pictures, and that's going to spark an association in his brain. Have him visualize the words when he's trying to spell things. And when he gets a little older, outlines are amazing, because again, it's taking the information and it's visually placing it in a different order, a different placement on the page that, again, it's visualized and he's going to remember it. And flashcards, even at his age, are amazing. And there are some sites that you can make them online. I've got some resources to tell you about later, or just have him draw it himself, or, you can have homemade ones that are good. And lots of hand manipulatives, especially with math. Because again, the concept needs to make sense by seeing it, not by thinking about it or imagining it. And then when you decide to go online, find some sites, that are going to have games and things for him. Make sure that there are things that have really bright graphics, not weak and, things that really pop out visually for him. And when he's getting a little older, and he is having charts and things like that online, choose ones that have boxes, colored boxes set, containing that information. So the key with him with that and visual learners will be visualization. Now, if you have a learner that had a lot of B's, that would be an auditory learner. And they learn by hearing and by listening. Characteristics of that would be humming or talking to themselves when they're bored. They love to read aloud because they want to hear the words. Because they want to hear the words, they prefer audiobooks. They follow verbal instructions very well, and because they can hear individual sounds that letter combinations make, they learn to spell by phonics instead of just, learning sight words. And just because this type of learner is staring off into space does not mean that they are not paying attention to you. They are looking off because they want to concentrate on what they're listening to, and maybe not wanting to look at your gestures and things like that. Tips for working with auditory learners: they want activities that they can, when they read, they can listen to it. And it's really important that they have an ability to record notes and things like that, so they can go back later and hear in order to study. Use audiobooks whenever you can. And just like with visual learners, you had a visual cue to notify that the next thing coming is very important. Well, with auditory learners, there will be sound cues, which would be, say, possibly, now, this is going to be really important. Or, again, agree on what the audio cue will be, the sound cue, and don't change it, so that can spark their attention. Podcasts are wonderful for audio learners, and there are tons of podcasts on every imaginable subject you can think of. And whenever you're trying to inspire their creativity, it's a good idea to have background music, because a lot of times that takes them to places that they might not necessarily go to when they're painting a picture or something like that. When they're studying good or new vocabulary words, they should spell it out loud. And then also they can add the oral definition. Again, they're going to be hearing it. When memorizing information, help them use things like rhymes and well-known songs that they can plug in facts into the lyrics, and so they can sing it to themselves, and mnemonics, things like that. Whenever they have a problem with an area with an auditory learner, it's good to just sit and talk things through. And because they aren't, they're not visual, when they come to charts and tables and things, it's hard for them. But if you sit down and you verbally explain so that they can hear what this chart is representing, that helps them process it that much more. And then when they're doing a new process, learning a new process, it's good to talk about what they're going to do, how they're going to do it, and why it's done that way. So again, the key to them will be hearing.
Interesting.
Oh, there we go. The C's are physical learners. They learn by touching and by moving. Some of these characteristics you might relate with are: they need to be active and take frequent breaks. They prefer to jump straight into a task and get it started instead of sitting around, let's keep talking about this task before we get it started. No, they just want to get it done. They would rather show you something than tell you about it. They touch and feel everything. They like to experience the world through touch and sensation. They appreciate physically expressed encouragement, like if you pat them on the back or in some way that they can feel it, really registers with them. And they rely on what they can perform directly or what they can experience. To stimulate their learning, whenever possible, you're going to use physical objects. And I thought it was interesting that that for math, cut out numbers so that they can actually hold that, for addition, they can actually pick up the number and move it around, manipulate it. For spelling, you can have letters. For writing sentences, have words that they can assemble. They're very keen on science experiments. Field trips are amazing because they can get out and move and experience it through their senses. They like study games because they can manipulate things. They're not sitting still. And there are online, especially with the skill of computer coding, there's something called drag and drop where you use the mouse and move things around. That is perfect for this type of learner. In order to study well, you should allow them to move around while they're studying and reading. Create practice tests so they can go through that physically, the experience before the real test comes along. Avoid things that they don't like, such as long-range planning, workbooks, and pencil and paper. They would rather use manipulatives. And if you can have something that they can fidget with, like a stress ball or something, or even chewing gum or letting them doodle while you're talking to them, there again, that is helping engage that part of their brain that is set up for them to learn best. So anything that can involve movement is perfect for this user. Now, if you have a lot of D's, that is a verbal learner, and those two, that one can get a little confused with auditory learner. But remember, the auditory learner picks up information through hearing it, but the verbal learner picks up information by speaking it. So they learn best through speech and through writing. And I believe the fact that, the part of the brain that is in charge of speech also is connected to the writing function. So these two go together rather well. They enjoy new words and they find creative ways to use them, such as poetry and wordplay. They learn foreign languages really easily. They tend to do better in word problems than equations when it comes to math. They do well on language-based standardized tests. They ask a lot of questions. And they can tell if you read them a story and maybe you skipped a page and it's not there, they're very sensitive. They can pick up on that. And when they read, they actually hear the word. Every word that their eyes read, they hear it silently in their brain. And because of that, they can be a bit slower when it comes to reading. So tips for them to stimulate learning: you have them explain the concept either through writing summaries or by verbally telling you about it. They have writing activities for every subject. And that's helpful anyway, because I found in college that every subject I took, I was responsible for a term paper. So that's a good practice to get into right away, is to realize that you need to have the ability to write about anything. Offer instructions both verbally and written instead of just writing it. And graphs, again, just like with the other learner, they're hard to understand, but instead of maybe you writing it out or telling it to them, explaining it to them so that they can hear it, these guys need to say it back to you or to write it so that they can make sense. So it's not just lines and colors, it actually is associated with words. When they study, it's really good idea to have them reteach to you, or even if it's not even for a test, when you finish a lesson, and it's a good idea to have them summarize in their own words what it is that they learned that day. It's a good way to find out, if there are any gaps, but also with this type of learner, it's reinforcing that information. Create checklists. Organize study notes using headings and lists, even outlining is good. And I found this interesting. With this type of learner, they really benefit by taking notes by hand. I know that now a lot of kids have tablets and things and they type in their notes in the classroom, but this doesn't work well with a verbal learner. They need to actually have that connection between their handwriting and their brain and what they're learning. So E's are social learners, and actually social learners are, that learning skill is a sub skill. It's something that can attach itself to any of the other styles of learning. This depends a lot on the child's personality. A social learner gets along well with peers, looks for new friendship, likes to make eye contact, is an excellent leader, benefits from open communication and sharing ideas, communicates well with people both verbally and non-verbally through body language, and listens well and understands that other people have different views, and he will appreciate them for that. Tips for social learners: field trips. Let them talk to professionals that are involved in whatever it is that they're studying. Role play, real life situations, because again, they are able to make connections with how different people think. Giving them the opportunity to be on panels and to participate in debates. Find learning, cooperative learning and group projects. Encourage multicultural studies and character analysis, and join a homeschool support group. When studying, if this is an only child, which tends to happen quite frequently, they need, they're learning in groups, but the majority of their education might be one-on-one. So let your class be less formal and more like a discussion, and let them share their ideas with you and then give them feedback. Find a study group or a mentor. Let them work with them on projects. Again, it's an only child, but they do the work and they do the learning. You're just there to interact with them, and if they need some help, you're right there to do that. Let the student get comfortable with working independently occasionally, because there's a lot of times in life where you have to be independent when you are engaged in different tasks. And then seek out secure social media educational sites. So interaction is the key with these. Mostly F's are logical learners. And this one is actually what I find are gifted and talented. And so this is just giving you a chart of, on the left, what teachers, on the left are the characteristics that they possess. But on the arrowed side, these are behaviors that teachers might notice in the classroom, and they might comment to the parent about, and it might not always be positive, but there's reasons for it. So a characteristic of gifted and talented is that they usually have a very keen sense of humor, and it might be gentle or it might be very cutting. Now the teacher is going to say, he's a class clown or she's a class clown. Another characteristic is that they are very idealistic and they have a high sense of justice. They set the standard, their standards and everyone's standards really, really high. Now, the problem with that is that's not the way the world is. You know, you got to cut people some slack. But gifted and talented, they don't think that way. So they have these unrealistic goals and expectations of others, which makes them intolerant, but also they have those same goals and expectations on themselves, and they can't live up to them. And so they're very self-critical, and they can really put themselves down a lot. But that's just because that's how their thinking is. They're very intense. When they find something that they love, they go in for it all the way. And the teachers will find that in the classroom, that disrupts everyone because, you know, she doesn't want to get into things that deeply. She wants to make a point and move on. But, you know, he might be disrupting the other kids because he's not finished with that yet. He gets very frustrated when he doesn't have anything to do, especially in the classroom. He's already taken care of business, so to speak, and the other kids haven't caught up to him yet. And so now he's sitting there with something, with nothing to do, and that leads to frustration. And because they're intense, they have a lot of energy, they have a very intense feelings, and they can melt down very easily. They are very self-aware of feelings, and they feel that they tend to, not right away, but as their experience in public school or interacting with others, they know that there's something, they're not sure what it is, but they know there's something about them that is different. And that causes all kinds, that can cause a feeling of rejection, and that can cause isolation, and it can lead to emotional and social growth that isn't up to speed with where they should be. They possess so much information, especially on the things that they're interested in. They have so much data packed into that brain that they get bored really easy, and they can't understand why people can't keep up with them, so they get very impatient. They enjoy doing things that are intellectual and are above what their classmates are doing. But again, with their impatience and with their attitude, sometimes they come across as being disrespectful, they come across as being rude, and they hate the fact that when they're in a classroom, the students are having to, by learning, they're having to, you know, go through different drills and things like that, where the gifted and talented has picked it up the first time and is, you know, does not want to continually repeat over and over. So that causes problems in the classroom. They have flexible thought processes, and their thinking is very concept based. So they, so that causes them to question what if the teacher knows what she's talking about. They might reject what is already accepted and known because they think of things completely differently. And so they don't always accept the way information has come about through other thinking processes. And they have, this is important because when you have gifted and talented, if you're homeschooling especially, they will latch on to a subject, and they don't want to hear that they only have a week to work on it. They want to get into the subject as deeply as they can. So time restraints are not well received through gifted and talented. This is just giving you some numbers as far as IQ goes, the different levels of gifted and talented. Over to the right, I'm showing you the difference between what a smart kid is and what a gifted kid is. Smart kid knows the answers to the questions, but the gifted kids are asking the questions after the questions. They're taking it up the next level. Uh-oh, wait a minute. If you hold on just a second, I need to go and grab my thing because I'm running out of battery. Robin, are you there? Okay, if you can go ahead and read through this, I'm going to go grab my plug real quick.
Yes, I am, Donna. What do you need?
Would you just kind of read through this chart on the right because my battery is dying. I'll be right back.
Okay. Like Donna was saying, the smart kids know the answers to the questions, but the gifted kids are the ones who go further and ask the questions. Smart kids are interested in what's going on, but gifted kids are intensely curious about everything. Smart kids are attentive, work hard, and share good ideas, while the gifted kids are engaged intellectually and have unique, original ideas. The smart kids apply effort to learning. They take 6 to 8 tries or repetitions. They understand ideas and meaning, and they complete assignments. While the gifted kids absorb concepts effortlessly within 1 or 2 repetitions, they construct abstractions, draw inferences, and initiate projects. Smart kids memorize easily, are receptive to new things, and listen with interest. They prefer things be presented in sequential order. While the gifted kids are insightful, they make connections with ease, they display intensity and have strong feelings and opinions. They thrive.
I'm so sorry about that.
Hi, Donna. We're down to the smart kids copy and absorb information.
Oh, so sorry about that.
That's okay. We're to smart kids copy and absorb information.
Okay, very good. Whereas the gifted and talented create original information and that is beyond their peers. And then the smart kids are pleased with themselves when they're learning. But again, as I said, the critical, they are just so self-critical and depreciating because they just have this high standard. So it's pretty, they have pretty hard times sometimes. So the needs for gifted and talented students. Sometimes, like I said, they know that there's something different about them, but they can't quite put their finger on it because they're looking from the inside out. And it's really important that if you're teaching or if you have a gifted and talented person in your family, that you help them discover what it is about them, what their strengths are. So that will help them accept themselves a little more. They need the time and freedom to experiment and explore subjects that they're interested in. They need encouragement to ask questions, make discoveries, and pursue their own interests in depth. They need the opportunity to work with other gifted and talented students. And they need the freedom, again, to not be constricted by time frames or you have to study, this country or whatever. They, they just don't need that kind of restriction. Their brains don't require it. You know what I mean? So G's, this is also a secondary learning style, and this is solitary. They are deep thinkers. They're self-aware and they spend time reflecting. They work well alone, usually introverted. They're independent. They're very good at managing their learning. They're responsible for their learning. They like to learn about themselves. They love journaling. They study best when they're on their own and when they have a lot of space to just spread out. They like to relate information to themselves, and they like to set goals and make plans. So tips for these guys to stimulate their learning: have them keep a journal so that they can track their learning and they can relate it to their personal life, give them time to process new information and even explore it on their own. I don't think solitary learners pick things up at light speed. They need to take the information and break it down to where it makes sense to them. So they need the time to be able to do that, and they need the quiet and the space to be able to do that. Oops. Even though they prefer to work alone, it's important to check in, because this type of person, again, they're introverted. Sometimes it's hard for them to go to someone and say, hey, I need some help understanding this. So check in, every once in a while, and very gently find out if they need anything, if they're having any problems, and then try to build lesson plans around their personal interests. Again, that's the great thing about homeschooling, study aids, use lists and check items as they're completed for motivation, deepen understanding of study materials by tying lessons to familiar topics. If it's an only child, again, help them with projects, but let them do the work themselves. And seek out secure social media and educational sites. So they need space and reflections. So that was a lot of information. Do you have any questions? Or is there anything that you would like to talk about further?
It was a lot of information, but it was incredible how insightful and how spot on. After going through those questions, the profiles match up. And I am, because I am a G, I'm a strong G.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to want to, plus I have to switch back to work mode, but I really appreciate this information, and I want to go away with it by myself for a while, but I can feel it opening new pathways of thought processes and approaches to working with my little R and little E here at home. I absolutely, even though I felt like I was throwing darts at some of those and trying to pick how he learns in our first questionnaire, like I felt like some of it was guesswork. But I absolutely do see where he is an A and an F, and then I overlap on the F, and then, like I said, that this G is, yeah, this is great, and I'm going to go and let this marinate and reflect, and they're power tools though for me. So thank you so much.
Well, let me tell you, on the screen you see before you, if you are handouts you can print out. It's a 5-page double-sided handout. It's got all the information, plus it has, for each of those steps, it has some really good websites, free websites and things like that. There's also a couple places where there are additional testing that are would be probably more age appropriate. So if you go to this, our Greenwood, lib.de.us, on the top bar, on the top bar, click on Adult Services. Then click on, then you're gonna look over to the right and you're gonna see Homeschooling 101, Discover Your Learning Style, whatever. Click on that.
Oh, do you mean like right this moment?
No. I'm just, just write this down.
Okay.
Whoops, there goes.
Got it.
So click on that and then scroll down to the bottom and it will say Homeschool 101 Learning Slides. And if you click on that, you're going to get the 10-page handout.
Okay, I will definitely be doing that. My curriculum planning begins at midnight after work. But I am really happy to have found this webinar early in this process, and I hope that others will find their way to it as well. Thank you for
We'll spread the word. Like I say, it will be recorded. It has been recorded, and I thank you so much. And if there's anything that you need, again, any kind of assistance, any other questions, resources, give me a call. My name is Donna Carter, and I'll be happy to do anything I can to help you out.
Thank you so much, Donna. Have a great day.
Okay, you too. Bye.
Bye-bye now.